Welcome to the First Generation podcast. Today we have Sam here with us, and I'm excited to introduce Sam to you, who's got years and years of experience, but who he brings to the table is a lot of value, and you do not want to miss this. So brief overview about Sam. Sam is a retired U.S. Air Force officer and a combat veteran who founded Wild Mountain Capital in 2018. The first question, Sam, how did you come up with that name?
Thanks. Thank you. So naming your own companies can be really difficult, particularly if, in my mind, I didn't want it to be about me. I wanted it to be bigger than myself. So I didn't want my name in the name of the company. And so we're kind of a little wild. We buck the trends a little bit, and we forge a path that will get us there and go through all the thick and thin. And so we thought about that a lot. We liked mountains. We liked the challenge. I've climbed a lot of mountains. We like the challenge of overcoming, and it's not always about getting to the top. Sometimes it's just about the journey. And you still have to, get back down. It can be challenging to get down a mountain too, right? Not just going up. Although that's how we talk about. Anyhow, so I was living in Alaska, and I actually lived on Wild Mountain Drive, the name of my street. And my wife said, "Sam, would you just name it Wild Mountain, whatever? That's exactly what you guys are doing anyways." I was like, "Oh, that's a great idea."
Love it. That story. So coincident, the street name was that, but what you do as a passion, mountaineering, mounting, doing all those things, was a seed for you to name the company. So more about Sam. Sam has traveled globally with U.S. Air Force Special Operations as an international health specialist. And while he was on these travels, he would see poverty and a lack of safe housing while he was leading complex rehab and development projects worldwide. That motivated Sam to start Wild Mountain, to transform neglected, unsafe, and mismanaged assets, not just into affordable housing, but also into housing that is more affordable. Now, Wild Mountain Company has a team of over 60 years of commercial and residential real estate, and they have over 75 projects that they worked on since 2019. And the team has syndicated over 20 developments, rehab projects, and creating equity and growth nearly twice initial investment. In less than 2 years, projects include mobile homes, apartment complexes, self-storage, and many more. I'm super excited to engage with Sam today, where he's going to share his journey of being in the business. What we were talking about before we got on the call, my previous job in corporate America was with a consulting company, Deloitte. And Sam actually did internship at Deloitte in LA. Is that correct, Sam?
Yeah, downtown Los Angeles, big skyscraper. Yeah.
So walk us through your journey. You worked in corporate America, but you took the plunge of being self-employed, impacting other people. Walk us through the thought process, what made you transition being where you're at today, Sam?
Yeah, I spent a lot of time in construction over the years, whether that, I got out of high school, I went on a mission for my church. I came home, I got into construction, working construction. I really liked real estate. My family had just grown up really poor, and we were always fixing everything in the house. And so, learn through great experiences not to put your finger in the electrical panel. You get a bad outcome when that happens. We just kind of learn through hard knocks how to do stuff. And then I got into construction and enjoyed it, but I wasn't fulfilled, and went into the military. In the military, I was enlisted as a firefighter at first, and with some friends of mine, we started flipping homes on our days off, because we worked these 24-hour shifts on, 24 hours off. And so every other day we were out flipping homes. And then I started to do that on my own with other partners, where I would do the money and put together the debt and everything. And we would do all that work and then flip homes. And then 2008 happened. We continued there for a little bit, and then we had to stop. You just couldn't get debt anymore. And so you couldn't buy anything, and we didn't have deep enough pockets to buy with cash. We were able to still sell our portfolio, and because our basis was just really, really low. And then we were also able to hold on to some just as rental properties, and I held on for one particular home from 2006 all the way to 2019, 2020, I think is when I sold that property and made my money numerous times over during the years. And because it's real estate, it's like if you hold on to it and aren't anxious to just sell, you can continually refinance and pull cash back out as property values go up. And it just becomes like this bank account that you aren't paying for, somebody else is paying for. So that was great. But I realized, going on in my career, got it, commissioned as an officer, got into global health, traveled around the world working with foreign militaries, foreign governments, helping them to develop their healthcare systems. And in that process, I really saw like I thought I grew up poor, but these people are super poor around the world in various places. And like Afghanistan, Chad, I mean, some of the poorest countries on the planet. And, what incentivizes them to continue to feed the beast, to continue to help other people. And it really needs to come down to, a personal profit motive. Profit is we could say greed, but look, I mean, people got to feed their families, right? And the people who are bashing against greed or bashing against capitalism are ones who are benefiting from capitalism, or they're in the government and the rich, right? And so it's like, how do you create a system where people can help each other out, and target the home? And so we went after high impact real estate investing in a way that would create profit. Sorry, that was a very long answer, but that was the drive behind it all.
No, love it. Actually, it's very relevant because what you shared, Sam, was growing up, you do not have, adequate financial success. So you were the handyman, you were the electrician, you're doing all those things in your personal household that allowed you to learn firsthand what to do and where not to stick your finger in. But over time, as you got into military and you were traveling the world, you actually saw what poverty actually means. And that's very reflective because I'm originally from India. And when someone stands on the side of the street and they're begging for $1, begging for money or begging for food, they actually do not have any money. They have no government. They actually have no food and no clothes to wear. Whereas, as cocky as it sounds, over here, I see signs in Houston, people putting up a sign beside the road and says, why lie? Need money for beer.
Yeah.
And look at those people. They're healthy. They have a big, drink and, food, whatever next to them. And they're just begging for money because they're lazy.
Yeah.
They have the best of them. They
It's
don't
not
want
always the case, but yeah.
I agree. It's not always, but when you see real poverty, where people are living 10 of them in one small room, they share one room and they have not enough food to eat and they actually are deprived. And then you see some people who are not, they just want to be taking money from people, gives you perspective. That's why when you travel to countries, you mentioned Afghanistan, you mentioned Chad, people, you see the poverty over there, you realize, wow, this is what I have. This is what I grew up with. And it wasn't as bad as I thought, correct?
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. I remember one time I dropped my wife off at the grocery store. I'm sitting in my little, 15-year-old Honda Accord. And as we came in, we see some people by the street, with the signs. And I'm just sitting there watching them, thinking about this exact thing. And they come back over to their nice Tacoma sitting in the parking lot. And they get over the corner and he pulls out of his pocket this huge wad of cash. And him and his girlfriend or wife or whoever, significant other, they were sitting there going through their money, and they get in their nice car and drive off. And I thought, oh my goodness, there's scammers at work, right? They want to just benefit from other people. And so that, having that and knowing that, and then I've met thousands of people who would do anything they could to work and provide for themselves. And so what we've tried to do is create a system wherein you can invest in real estate. And then we go to the properties and we find ways to help people work and to generate their own income through mowing the lawns and everything else. And we partner with charities. We do all of that. Now, I'm a capitalist. I love capitalism. Yes, it has some very tough learning things. It will destroy you. You can go bankrupt and all that stuff, right? However, it also has this incredible power of empowering people to help themselves. Gives them human dignity. It helps mental health, educational outcomes, all these things happen. And so by taking over a distressed property that's been neglected, that hasn't been taken care of by management, the crime's been able to set in, we're able to, it's not perfect. We're definitely not perfect, but the change at these properties has been palpable, right? You go in the day we close, SWAT team's there picking up whoever, and and then 6 months later, it's clean, it's nice, and really, it's like a month later, it's clean. But all of a sudden, we start enforcing rules, and you got to pick up your trash, and you focus on a lot of those little things, like you learn in the military. Focus on your little things. If your shoelaces are hanging out, then you don't care about how you look, right? So you just do a lot of those little things, and it changes the property. And SWAT team's not coming there anymore. The people aren't afraid anymore. Windows aren't getting busted out anymore. And it's just different. And now kids who grow up in that nice apartment complex, and you're talking about hundreds of residents, now instead of being scared to go stand by the bus stop, now they feel safe. Now they're not moving because their family feels threatened, going on to the next one, or we found them a charity who will help them get back on their feet until they can do it on their own. And so now they're not moving. Better educational outcomes, better school ratings. School ratings are dependent on transientness of students. And that's why rich schools have the best ratings, because those residents are they don't move very often, right? And so the transient nature, there's all these things that go into it. So sorry, yeah.
So your team finds distressed neighborhoods, homes. How does the process start? What do you guys do? Walk me through step by step. What does the team do?
Yeah, so we look for off market, on market, wherever they are, deals where there's a very there are good signs of neglect at the property, and sometimes that is property owners who are just terrible human beings. We've bought stuff from terrible human beings, and that closing process is super difficult because they've lied, they cheated, the financials are all messed up, or and it's really difficult to determine what the truth is in that process. There's others who are they bought a property 10 years ago. It was way different price then than it is now. They were never capitalized. They don't have a lot of money. Maybe they made some money in oil and gas or somewhere else, and they were smart and they bought an apartment complex, but they didn't know how to take care of it. So then they're literally 180 unit property. They may be taking care of it themselves. And that money they make each month, that goes to pay their lifestyle, but they only have one. And so it's not intentional neglect, but it's neglect. And then we have folks like, they're in New York City, they bought stuff in Dallas, and they've never done anything, and the property has turned into a gigantic mess. And so those are the properties we look for. Some that are gigantic messes, some that are just neglected. Those are really the best ones, because you can go in and do some things and it makes a huge difference really fast. Those ones that are giant messes, they take a lot of money, a lot of resources to correct, and you really have to get a fantastic deal on the entry point to make money on those.
So you find a multifamily apartment complex or unit, then you find that it's distressed, the owner is negligent or is not financially successful to fix those things. Then you have a pool of investors you put together to acquire that asset, improve the asset, and then flip the asset. Is that the process, Sam?
Yeah, and that's it. And it's not flipped to do a quick sell. It's flipped to get it out of the debt, the more expensive debt that you have to get to go into these deals. Mostly, sometimes really big lenders will lend on these, but typically it's more expensive debt. We want to get out of that debt as soon as we can and refinance. Now, in the past, you could refinance and get money out pretty quickly in a couple of years. Right now, the debt market is terrible. You get DSCR constraints, or debt service coverage ratio constrained, because debt is so expensive with all the interest rates that you can't get these high values. You can't get 80% loan to value or 75%. You're looking at 60% loan to value or 65%. And when you're talking about a $20 million loan, you're talking about millions of dollars of difference of what you would have got a year ago versus what you would get today. And so that makes refinancing a little bit of a challenge in today's market. And so if where possible, we try and hold, or we try to do HUD 223F or something else that where we can get really good rates for today's market and be able to continue to complete the project.
What all markets are you in? Are there specific cities, state that you focus on, or is it nationwide, or is it global location you also target to them?
Yeah, I would love global. That's I need a B in the to get that far. So right now we're really focused on Dallas, Fort Worth, and Tulsa are probably our primary markets that we're looking at. But when we're looking at new acquisitions, it's typically Dallas, Fort Worth. The reason is one, there's a ton of distressed assets there. Two, there's always a risk that you come in and you put in all this money and the market can't sustain the change, right? And because we still have to give a return to our investors, I'm not a charity. I need to get paid. My team needs to get paid. They want to feed their families, right? None of us are driving Ferraris or anything else like that. We are really passionate about what we do. And so our focus is really to be able to get this done and generate a really healthy return that corresponds with the risk taken on these big projects, because they are risky. You have a lot more moving pieces. It's just more risky, right? So in the end, those are the markets we need to be in, is where we can do all the work and get adequately compensated, and our investors can get adequately compensated.
So Sam, where are you based? Where do you live?
I'm in San Antonio, Texas.
San Antonio. So I know you mentioned Dallas, you mentioned Fort Worth. Are there not enough opportunities in your local market, San Antonio?
We're always looking in San Antonio, but San Antonio doesn't have the multifamily market that Dallas does. And so there's a lot of interest in buying in San Antonio. There's not as many actual assets that there are in DFW. So in DFW, I can go find an asset every day of the week. It is the number one multifamily market in the country in terms of transactions by a long shot, and it has been for a long time. So there's just a ton of properties, big apartment complexes. San Antonio has a lot. Most of them are newer, which are wonderful. And then the old assets, people just want a lot of money. And it just leaves us kind of scratching our heads like the math doesn't work, you know.
Do you mind sharing with the listeners today 3 key strategies you apply, for example, Dallas market today, to find these distressed properties or distressed assets?
Yeah, so great. There's 3 places you can find great deals. One is just a really good brokers network. So we have worked with a lot of different brokers there. Some of them are fantastic. Others are complete shysters, right? And so we are always funneling, or we have been always funneling deals. Right now, we're just kind of pausing like everybody else, waiting for the market to level out. But you know, we're constantly aware of and tracking different opportunities. We actually get recommendations from the city. The city will say, "Hey, there's this apartment complex across from the street from the high school. It's an absolute dump. There's a ton of crime there. Are you guys willing to go take that? We'll get you in contact with the owner," because, you know, the city wants that thing removed, not the property removed. Sometimes they actually do want the property removed. But most of the time it's just like, we need somebody to take that over, and we love what you guys do and how you are doing it. And because we've shown that with our work in DFW, they want us to keep doing that. And so we get leads from there. And then you can always look for bankruptcy filings and other things. There's, you know, bankruptcy can take a long time. Maybe it's going to go into Chapter 11 and never come out of bankruptcy. They'll just stay with the current owner. They'll fix the debt and they'll move on. I think there's going to be thousands of Chapter 11s in 2023, maybe tens of thousands. The reason I say that is because if you have a $15 million loan, the interest rate that just 7 increases in interest rates, your payments just went up by $50,000 to $60,000 a month.
Right.
And if you think that's not going to impact your bottom line or your ability to, I mean, you just lost $600,000 a year on that property because of interest rate hikes. And there were tens of thousands of bridge loans. Everybody was getting bridge loans because they were cheap, they were fast. You had to move fast in the market. And if you wanted to get agency debt, it was usually 3 or 4 months to do it. And sellers wouldn't wait that long because they would just sell it to the next guy who could close it in 60 days. And so there's tens of thousands of these out there, and they're all variable rate, or most of them are variable rate. And so people are getting toasted right now. And I keep hearing, I heard somebody's losing a $50 million project. All of their investors, 10 million or so of investors, gone. Everybody lost their money or are about to lose all their money.
The rate spiked from 3.5, 4 when it's 6 and 7, doubles your monthly payment. On a $10 million note, it could be $25,000, $30,000 per month that you're paying more. So I understand where there'll be more, Chapter 11's filed in 2023. So I understand where you have a business plan, finding out. I really love when you shared the city sees your company as the one to prospect and give leads to when they see a distressed property. Well, why don't you come in, Sam, with your team and rehab the space and then sell further? So that makes sense to me. So why don't you share with me, there are a lot of people who do what you do, which is finding distressed home, distressed properties, fixing them and flipping them. And that's HGTV is a blessing. It's also a boon. Where we see all that, it seems all simple. Sam, sledgehammer and break down the wall, open up the space, and voila, you have an asset to sell. While it does happen, that's an outlier. That sweat equity that goes behind a project, especially a rehab, or when you have to rebuild a structure or redo the space, it has more issues than what you actually can perceive. So a lot of people do what you do. What's your secret sauce? What makes you and your team successful? And what you shared was the city is reaching out to you in Dallas market saying, hey, Sam and team, why don't you come and take over this project? Or here's the contact information of the owner who is not taking care of the property. You must have some secret sauce that differentiates you from other people who are doing what you're doing. Would you mind sharing that with us today?
Yeah, I'll say 2 things. One is our passion is genuine. It's not fake. It's not a fraud. You'll have people call you fake and fraud in your life. You really just care about money, blah, blah, blah. They don't know anything. They don't know you. And so it's like, look at my works, look at what we've done, so our passion is real. The second thing is that we have failed a lot. All right. And we never, ever, ever give up. And so if, your enemy's at the gate, banging down the door, do you run into your room and hide? Do you go up to the door and stand there ready for them to come in and kill you? Or do you figure out how to win? And banks are not your friends. Most of the time, banks are not your friends. They don't give, if they're, no offense to New York City, but if they're out of New York City, it's almost guaranteed. They don't, you're just another number. And all they care about is that, return on their investment, right? Nothing else matters to them. And so they're not going to be your friends. If you need a local bank, they can be your friends and they can help you. We've had local banks, another great bank, Merchants Bank, fantastic, super helpful, never problems, things like this, interest rate rises. We go out to them and say, hey, we need to do this or that. We got to figure something out. And they start working with you and they help you out. New York City banks, never touch them. So to bring this back is we have learned through a lot of bad experience of what not to do. And then because we are so driven by our passion to make a difference, we just keep going. And so I've started coaching commercial real estate folks, syndicators who have been syndicating for a while, those who have not, and are getting into it. You go to a lot of these courses, coaching courses, and it's all the hype and everything's sunset, it's all HGTV, right? You hit the thing and everything changes and you're going to make all this money and 400 grand a year. That's only, 3 weeks away and blah, 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 blah. And we're like, yeah, it could happen that way. But more than likely, there's going to be a tremendous amount of effort. If you only have so many hours in the day, so many lives to give. How do you do this and focus and not fail in a way that you cannot recover? And so that's, I mean, that's what we teach, and that's what we focus on. But that's our secret sauce. So we, you know, we fail, we get back up and we run. And we are, you know, genuine and passionate about this.
What's your long-term vision? What do you want to be doing?
Long term, I want to get back to the global aspect. I've spent a long time globally. I was fortunate to have a lot of success in some very difficult places and some very difficult circumstances by helping to align incentives with you know, local medical leadership or the doctors and the imposter doctors who say they're doctors, they're really just the supply sergeant or whatever. Anyhow, so they, you know, when they understand that there's a way for them to improve their life by improving other people's lives, then there's a sustainable system grows, right?
Love it. Is there a specific region or country that comes to your mind first where you would want to go and create the system, create the help that you want to create?
There's a few in my mind. I'd really like to go. I'd really like to go back to Nepal. I love Nepal. I love India. I love the willingness to work and to do difficult challenges, and then just the incredible need in those places. And there's a lot of other places that I would like to go back to. West Africa, Liberia. I love Liberia. One of my favorite places in Africa, just for the people and their passion. And they speak English, and I speak English, so that makes it better. But yeah.
What did you like or love about Nepal, and how many times have you been there?
Twice, been there twice. What I love about Nepal is every day, every morning, people get up, they dress very nicely, they go to work, and it's mostly tourism, but they are out walking in the dirt and, you know, sandals, however far they got to walk, an hour, 2 hours, and they're dressed very nice. They're very kind. They're very polite. And their infrastructure is terrible, right? They have every single reason in the world to say, I give up. The government's not helping me. Every excuse they can give, but they don't. Like, largely, at least in my experience, spending a couple of weeks in Kathmandu and then going out into the country and visiting different places. I mean, just the drive to continue to improve their lives, that we can do something with that. If you're just sitting on the corner with, hey, I want beer, give me money, I can't do anything with that, right? And they don't want to do anything. But if you have a drive, wow, we can do something.
I agree with you, where it's the mindset of these people where, you know, whatever hardship they have, no infrastructure, but they are wired up to have a pleasant day every day,
every
no
day.
matter what hardship that's thrown at them. So now that you've been there twice, what specific area, region, or what aspect would you add the most value that would be relevant to the people of Nepal?
Yeah, that's a good question. You know, when I was there, we were focused on rotary wing helicopter patient movement. So a bus goes off a cliff, you just have 50 people who are now injured and they're 100 feet down, and how do you get access to them, and how do you move them, and then where do you move them to? And so a lot of it was that patient care flow and the systems, and then working with one of the main hospitals there in Kathmandu. You know, how do they reconfigure the hospital with what they have, right? So a lot of Americans will come over and they just want to give, here's this $50,000 bed, but you only have power 2 hours a day, so that doesn't work. So they just throw it away. They say, thank you, Americans, wonderful, yay, you're idiots. And then, you know, they do their thing. There's a book called The Ugly American. It's really good about citing a lot of that kind of stuff. But, you know, can they do with what they have, and can they make it better, right? It's like when we buy apartment complexes, we're not building a new one. We're taking the old one making it much, much better, and then changing the management structure, which that's what really is the key that leads to success. So the owners can be away and the residents survive. So the same thing there. I would love to do that with real estate. Maybe that's healthcare. Those are things that are still in my mind because I don't understand. I'd have to target one country. I'd probably target Nepal and figure out how do I help people become successful in real estate here or in some other fashion that's not tourist dependent, right? Because when COVID happened, their entire economy
Correct.
went off the rails, right?
Right. So talking about Nepal, I'm originally from India, and I went to a middle school, high school, a boarding school in India, and I had several classmates who were from Nepal. And just last month, I went back to India for my high school 25th reunion.
Yeah.
And some of my friends who were from Nepal were there. And I was just talking to them, engaging with them, day-to-day activity and what they do, how they go about. So they're not living at that poverty level. They are financially successful. But when you talk about infrastructure and system processes, those struggles are there and they're still struggling with that. So offline, what I can do is I can at least connect you with the people I personally know, I've grown up with, who are from Nepal. I believe one of them lives in Kathmandu. I can get in touch with them now. Whatever leverage you can get from them, whether it's knowing someone local who's successful, creating partnership or having, feet and eyes on ground while you are operating in the US. I'm happy to make the connection for you. But you are so right, where people of Nepal, they're simple people.
Yeah.
Simple joys of life gets them going every day. They're not about the hustle and bustle and iPhone 14 is coming out. I gotta get my next iPhone.
Yeah.
Who want that and get that.
Sure.
But the day-to-day person is not worried about that. They just want to get up, have a great day, make it a pleasant environment with the people who come visit Nepal, whether they are climbing the Mount Everest or just for tourism. They want to provide an environment. That's really key as business owners, as team leaders or organization leaders. If you provide the right environment, makes people welcome and happy to be there, then your success almost becomes unstoppable.
Yeah, that's it. And I haven't taken my family there. I really would love to. And so if you make that contact, that'd be fantastic. And we can start, reopening those doors that, we kind of put on hold as we seek success in commercial real estate to fund the opportunity to go help others in a way that, makes a difference.
If I can add one more story, the friend who I went to high school with, his wife does a lot of work in the community. And she shared with me, it's been about a few years, she was passionate about birds for some reason in that phase of her life. And she went out and found people, local people, to make bird nests. Okay. And that's all she did. She would put out these nests everywhere for the birds. I'm giving an example of how engaged she has been to providing value or help to other people. But sometimes the help that she provide, the birds may not care, how beautiful the bird nest is. But when you apply your time, effort in a resource or a strategy that helps the common person live a better life, be more successful, then you can actually make a difference. So I'll be more than happy to make the connection for you, and you can see what comes out of that.
Yeah, that'd be fantastic. I'd love that. Thank you.
I know we're talking about Texas. You live in San Antonio. I'm based in Houston, Texas. Why has Houston not been part of your radar? What's not happening in Houston in terms of multi-family or rehabs? How do you foresee Houston market, Sam?
I love the Houston market. You can go way off the rails in the Houston market, but we look at deals in Houston. We have looked at, visited, and none have just worked out for us. I would certainly venture into Houston in a heartbeat. I used to live in Lake Jackson, Texas, which is just south of Houston. That's where I finished high school. It's not where I started high school, but it's where I finished. Spent a lot of time. My brother used to live in Spring there in Houston. So we're, very familiar with Houston. I got married in Houston, in fact. Oh, wow. And so would love to, we just looked at a project in the medical center It just wasn't quite as distressed as we like.
Okay.
In debt's really difficult to source right now. So, but yeah, very interesting.
What you said was Texas is a big market. We look at San Antonio, Houston, Dallas, Austin. What's your perspective about Austin market, Sam?
Austin market had a gold rush, and now it's, the balloon popped a little bit, and things are coming down quite a bit, and so now there's stuff sitting on the market. Rents are coming back down, which we expected, right? Folks are paying way too much, and rent can only go up so far. This is not San Francisco, right? And so what we are San Diego, there's not a limited amount of space. It can keep growing out wide. And so if you can't afford the market, when you're going to drive 10 minutes and live in a nice place there. And so, yeah, if we had been in there before it popped and everything doubled, great. But now, no, I need to wait another year to watch it all come back down. So we're focused on the triangle. We have stuff in Killeen, Texas. We have stuff in San Antonio. We just have one apartment complex in San Antonio that's gone through a major rehab, almost done. And then we just, this triangle, there is so much work. There is so many jobs. There's so many people moving here and continue to, thrive. And we love the business climate. And so Texas is our focus. And so we've bought stuff in 7 different states. We've offloaded some of those. We're continuing to offload properties just so we can focus on the triangle.
So at this time, when it's hard to find debt, is your challenge with finding investors or finding financial institutions that can give you money? Where's the challenge right now, Sam?
Yeah, so retail investors, so your regular average everyday Joe, it's hard to get folks to invest right now. There's a lot of people who have invested in commercial real estate, and they're losing everything because their debt was wrong and the property they didn't buy multifamily. They're in some kind of ground up construction, and now that debt has become untenable. They can't pay that debt service, and so they're just going to lose these properties. Multifamily, there's still rent. So as long as the project was far enough along that it was cash flow positive, sufficiently well to take on an extra $50,000 or $100,000 a month in payments, then you're okay. So we have one of those where we doubled the NOI we 2.5x the NOI over 10 months.
Wow.
But because our bank was fantastic, we got over $1.5 million worth of work done in 6 months, 7 months. We killed it. And it's paying, right? So the $41,000 a month that the payments went up, we started at 3.5%, excellent bridge loan debt, like the best you could have got on the market. And, we're able to absorb that. It's tough, but we absorbed it. And so now we're in a position where we can go refinance and pull cash out even in today's ugly debt environment. I have another deal that's not in that position, right? The lender was terrible, and now we have to fix it. And there are avenues to fix it. And I'm happy to help anyone who is in that position that need to fix it. But finding regular investors, it's really difficult right now. What we do is we also work with institutional level investors, and they have cash. They have a lot of cash, and they're sitting and they're ready. They're getting ready to start deploying a lot of cash into good 2008 era deals, right?
Makes sense. So somebody wants to reach out to your team to, work with you as an investor or work with you to find opportunities, not just in Texas, any market. How would they reach out to you, Sam? What's your best contact info?
Yeah, great. You can always connect with me directly, sam@wildmountainholdings.com. Send that to me. Please don't spam me. I just said my email, and I know somebody's going to go out there and spam me. It's okay. I can hit delete with the best of them. But I'm honest and sincere, and I will not shy away from saying, hey, I screwed this deal up and I lost 200 grand. You want to know how you can do that too? Don't do this thing and don't lose your 200 grand. Happy to share those experiences with us, because it's important that we understand how we can go right. You can find me on Instagram @CleanMoneySam. Talking about this concept that how we invest matters. You can find me on LinkedIn, Samuel Sells, as well as on Twitter and Facebook. But again, just reach out to me. You can go to our website, wildmountaincapital.com, find out a little bit more about us. And send us an email. Let us know what you're thinking. Happy to review a deal with you. Happy to spend some time with you. And, I love this stuff. We're passionate about it. And if we can help, we would love to do so.
Love it. First, I loved how you came up with the name of your company, Wild Mountain Capital. It was a street that you lived on. And then you're passionate about outdoors. So that was great. You shared today that growing up, there was not a whole lot of financial success in your household. So you were the handyman, you were the electrician, you were the plumber, did everything. That gave you insight about what to do and what not to do. But with the travels being in the was it the Army you were with?
Air Force, yeah.
Yeah.
Air Force.
Over Air Force to Afghanistan, different countries, Liberia, Chad, different continents. You saw what life is all about. And you saw opportunities of distressed homes, distressed properties where people were not taking care of them. And you're applying that today, and you're hyper-focused in the Texas market, especially Dallas, DFW, and you have such relationship with the city that they are calling you and telling you, hey, Sam and company, look at this distressed property. Here's the owner's information. Can you come and rehab this and find a better way of making use of this asset that's deteriorating? So that's great story. You also shared about your favorite country to build a global brand would be in Nepal. You love the people over there. You're passionate about helping, and that's aligned with what your long-term vision is. It was super exciting to engage with you today, Sam. Learn so much about your passion, why you do. What you do, I would say it's not rocket science. A lot of people can buy distress, fix it up and sell and make $1. But it's the why that was so relevant for me today and for the listeners, why Sam does what he does, and your true passion about long-term success. Super excited to have you on the show today. One more time, share your contact information that people should reach out to you. Is it on LinkedIn, Twitter? What's the best platform to reach out to you, Sam?
Yeah, any of those, you can send me a DM and I will respond. Or send me an email, sam@wildmountaincapital.com. Happy to respond and to talk more about whatever your project is, or if you just want to get started in commercial real estate. There's a lot of different paths. What do you take? And happy to give you some guidance.
Fantastic. Thanks again for your time today. It was great engaging with you this morning.
Thank you so much, Kunal. It was great to talk to you, and I look forward to talking to you again soon.
Absolutely.